Hello my dears, this is Sarah from SheHoldsDearly.com, and today I want to talk about following decorating trends. Now, I have a lot to say on this topic. There are trends that I don't think you should follow, trends that are worth following. So as a designer, I think people would naturally think, oh, you must follow all the design trends and try to predict them, try to keep your finger on the pulse in the design industry. And of course, the ultimate is to set design trends. And while I do some of that, I have some strict boundaries within that, so we're gonna talk about that today. And I know what you're thinking. You may be thinking, oh, Sarah, my design style is timeless. What I choose is I'm gonna love it for the next 30 years. And I have to beg to differ. I think that works for some people that don't maybe care about decorating as much. But if you're watching this video, you probably do care about decorating. And I want you to think back to where you were 10 years ago and the stuff that you were interested in and investing in, and tell me if it hasn't changed, at least a little bit. And then 20 years back, depending on how old you are, totally has changed, I'm guessing. Okay, so let's start off with who even sets these trends that we suddenly feel pressured to follow. I think there's two things going on. There's the organic trends and then there's the manufactured trends. Okay, so the design industry out there in the magazines will tell you things like, oh, this is gonna be hot for 2020. And for instance, there's the color of the year. So this year's color is this royal blue, sort of a classic, kind of a cornflower type blue, and that's what they say is gonna be popular. Now, whether that takes off or not kind of depends on the organic trend setting groups, which are the bloggers, the YouTubers, the Instagrammers. I know Joanna Gaines has completely risen as an empire in the design industry, but especially in the beginning, you would see her doing shiplap or getting, vintage lights and rewiring them and having big pendants over the kitchen table. And that had a huge effect on the design industry. In fact, that people started redoing houses because of that show. So that was more of an organic trendsetter situation. So even though, for instance, there's this blue that's supposed to be so popular this year, when I look on Instagram and I go into IKEA and I'm looking at just the natural progression of what people love, I'm seeing a lot of mustard yellow, hunter green, navy blue, especially in cabinetry in kitchens, like painting maybe like the whole lower half of the kitchen cabinets in black or navy blue, so it's really bottom heavy. But that's what people are doing. Whether the design industry recognizes it or is pushing it or not, that's what is starting to take off. So there's three things that really help me, especially as a DIY decorator, which I feel like is difficult in that we get inundated with ideas with Pinterest. We get inspiration overload, and it's also easy to just fall prey to really, really great marketing, right? So the first thing I want you to understand is the difference between a classic and a trend. And I do think that you should have both in your home. I think trends are fine. I just think there's some rules about them that kind of protect your wallet and just your peace of mind in the future, because you can get really sucked into things and then spend too much money and then regret them later. And I have some examples in my own life that I will share with you. Okay, so first of all, a trend, which I probably don't have to explain, but it's something that's really hot for the moment and then fades out who knows when. Usually like within 5 years, it's fading out. If you can actually look at a decoration and name the decade that it's from, that was a trend. So some of this is hindsight, is 2020 for sure, but a trend is something that's like a friend for a season that you maybe might even regret later. So it's the current popular style and it draws a lot of attention in the moment. Looking back over my lifetime, I've seen a lot of birds come and go, okay? So back when I was decorating in the 80s and 90s, there was the geese, right? With the ribbon around the neck. And now you just see those hanging out in the thrift store, waiting for their comeback. So then we moved into the rooster. Then we moved into the chubby songbirds, and I'm gonna link a funny YouTube video on that. If you haven't seen the Put a Bird on It video, it's pretty funny. and kind of true. Then we moved into owls. I'm not really sure what we're into right now. I still like birds, but the quantity of them has changed. Like, we used to just think birds were so cute on anything. I still have a few of them around, but it has changed. So I suggest really using trends in your accessories because the cost is low. So throw pillows, lighting, wall decorations, maybe some cosmetic wall, like full wall decorating, like accent walls are good with shiplap or wallpaper. Containers, storage containers, go trendy with that. Even like small pieces of furniture, little accent pieces. But be thinking like 5 years out when you're buying this stuff and think, am I okay with replacing it in 5 years? And if you're not, it's probably because you're spending a ton of money on it. So chances are that you are gonna change your style in 5 years, definitely 10 years. So ask yourself, will I feel totally guilty if I have to replace this in a few years because I start to hate it? Okay, now we're gonna talk about classics. So let's just make the friendship analogy again. This is like a lifelong friend that maybe comes and goes, but they're just always there. You always know you're loved by them. You always love them. They're kind of in the background of your life at the very least. They're not very demanding. So some words that would describe classic would be like historically memorable, traditional, enduring, serving as a standard of excellence, of recognized value, like the little black dress in your closet. Like everybody needs one of those just to cover you when you gotta go to a party or a funeral or something. It's that kind of a piece, okay? And you do need some of these in your house. I think they're worth investing in. So where I got into trouble in my own home is I put in granite countertops. And I spent a ton of money on them because there was a decade where I really loved granite countertops. And now it's been 10 years and I don't like the granite countertops. And I feel sick about the price I paid for them. I should have known, I mean, granite's gonna last for thousands of years, right? So I really advise people to be careful with their tile and their stone in their homes, okay? Because it's just not gonna wear out. So are you okay with replacing things? So I would be okay with putting in concrete counters because it's so inexpensive that then changing it down the road is not gonna give me, you know, an anxiety attack. So any huge pieces of furniture, so couches, maybe a bed, appliances, think classic with that. Like I think it was a couple years ago, they were really, like the design industry was really pushing that copper appliances were gonna be all the rage. And they never really took off in my opinion. I think stainless steel is always a good classic with appliances. I think your wall flooring should be a classic. So wood floors, that's a classic. But have fun with your area rugs, right? Those things are not a big deal to replace. In fact, they wear out usually in a few years, so you're gonna replace them anyway. Another classic to invest in would be Carrara marble or white subway tile. Those types of things will not cause too much drama if you're trying to resell or thinking about like what needs to be updated. Those things will just have a long lifespan. So these pieces are quiet and they're strong and they're kind of like the backdrop of all the other fun stuff that's going on. Okay, let's just throw out some examples of trends and classics. So let's go way back, like 30 or 40 years, because I feel like our design understanding is clearer than maybe what's going on right now, because we still really like it. So in the 80s, say early 90s, there were wallpaper borders. That was all the rage, and especially if they were stenciled, like stenciled ivy, I totally did that. There was floral overload. I still love florals, they're still in my house, but floral wallpaper, floral bedding, floral pillows, floral. There was overstuffed furniture, couches with the huge cushions and the arm rests, really dark, heavy furniture. And those things have come and gone, and I'm sure they'll cycle back. But there were some classics from the 80s and 90s. So there was a lot of rattan furniture, even wicker, right? I still have some of that, still love it, in smaller quantities maybe. There was big, chunky kind of accent pieces for coffee tables. Still love that. The large florals, which we just talked about. I still will do large florals, but maybe it'll be on like a couple throw pillows or maybe some drapes or something. But I wouldn't do the entire room, but the large florals, they're still there. Now to get really confusing, there are some classics within trends or trends within classics. For instance, this whole like vintage decorating has been around since I was born for sure. It has just taken on a little bit different form, a little different focus, different vernacular for sure. So when I first started decorating, which was like middle school, it was the country style. So I redid my whole room, like thought about every square inch, and there were geese, and there was country blue, the country blue and the mauve. And then that gave way to like hunter green and the barn red. And then that gave way to the shabby chics, so the whites and the pastels and the big flowers. And then there was French country. And then we kind of moved into Tuscany style, which still is old, like kind of that old world European style. All of this is still old, okay? So I guess what I'm saying is this whole farmhouse craze that's currently still, I think it's still going strong. I don't think it will ever truly go away. I think it's vintage classic decorating. And yes, the name is probably gonna change, the focus is gonna change, definitely like the little trends are gonna change. But I have always been an old soul. And so if you're into vintage decorating, I don't think it's ever gonna go away. It's just gonna take a different form. Okay, that was a long number one. Number two is really listen to yourself when you are saying that you love trends and make sure it's not just because you feel like everyone else is doing it. The way I know if I really love a trend is if I'm truly pinning it on Pinterest, just naturally, because it just sparks joy when I see it. That if I've done that a few times on Pinterest, then I know that, you know what, I really do like card catalogs or whatever. Then I will go forward in getting that piece of decoration. But make sure it's something that you truly are drawn to, that's you and not just someone else, or worse yet, like a marketing ploy. Okay, and number three, which I think is really the best, is to learn how to DIY things so that you're maybe putting out $25 or something to partake in a trend. And that's not gonna be a big deal to replace. That's just like a fun hobby. So learning how to DIY and thrift for your trendy items is a great way to go. I'm just gonna throw out 10 of my DIY and thrifty ideas off my blog. I did a lot of this before YouTube, so I don't necessarily have a video for every one of these, but I will link the blog post in the description below. So for instance, my farmhouse drop cloth curtains, aging terracotta pots, my closet makeover using shiplap, how to strip painted furniture, how to make a wreath in 5 minutes, my book page wall tutorial, my no pattern slipcover tutorial, how to install a rustic brick accent wall, my DIY As For Me sign, which I see these all over Etsy, which you can create your own very inexpensively. And my last example is our bifold closet doors, which we bought off of Craigslist and then gave them this shaker style finish. So if DIY decorating is something that you're really interested in and you wish you had more skills and more knowledge about the design process, I do have a private design group that's opening up in a couple of weeks. I only open it up twice a year to take in new members. I even do like live consultations with people once a month. We have a Bible study that's part of that, and we declutter our whole house. So if this is something that you're like, I am ready to really love my house and really feel confident in what I'm doing and get some stuff finished, I hope you can join my group. I'm gonna put a link down below. It's called Behind the Scenes, and you can get on the wait list, and I will be sure to tell you when we open at the end of this month. All right, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you got some new confidence out of that little pep talk. And if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I do post regularly and I share my DIY design advice and our vintage farm life. All right, take care, and I will talk to you soon.